and from afar to the 121st Commencement celebration of the Iliff School of Theology. For those of you joining via live stream, I am the Reverend Dr. Lee H. Butler, Jr., the 17th President of Iliff. It is my honor and privilege to give leadership to Iliff, a theological school with a profoundly dynamic history that is affiliated with the United Methodist Church. Welcome as we celebrate the fullness of who we are, especially at a moment in the nation when division and revisionist history is guiding our gaze to the future. A moment when relationships are being defined as contact without compassion. At Iliff, however, we are a community that values diversity and uniqueness. We are a community of scholars, teachers, learners, caregivers, racial justice and peace advocates, ceasefire protesters, and abolitionist agitators. We are queer, queer, straight, and passionate, she's, he's, they, us, as we advocate freedom. We value soul liberty as bodily emancipation, as setting the captives free from dwelling behind walls of open-air incarceration and in the devastation and rubble wrought by war and war crimes. Welcome to this moment of celebration and commencement to do new things. We want to acknowledge a few of our special colleagues who will be transitioning to retirement. First, Dr. Jacob Kennard, professor of comparative religions, has decided to retire, bringing 33 years of teaching in higher education to a close. 22 of those years, he has been a scholar teacher at Iliff. Arriving at Iliff as an early career scholar, he climbed the ranks from assistant professor to full professor. For 11 years, he served as director of the Masters of Arts program. As a Buddhist contemplative, he called us to be community, a community of openness and integrity. His desire has been for students to be fully equipped and for faculty colleagues to be thoughtful in our work together. With a sense of humor that is sometimes missed because his facial expressions don't always tell that he's being playful, I've appreciated knowing him and valued his scholarly reflections that have supported Iliff's commitments to engaging difference thoughtfully. I grew up hearing the song, "Happy Trails to You." Because Dr. Kennard is a passionate fly fisher, we say instead, we will meet you down by the riverside as you wade in the water. Dr. Kennard, we invite you to stand so that we may salute you for your years of dedicated service as a teacher scholar of the Iliff School of Theology. We also say farewell to the Reverend Dr. Kathy Kelsey, Senior Vice President of Academic Affairs and Dean of the Faculty. Dr. Kelsey has served Iliff in a variety of roles for 22 years as a spiritual guide, professor, and administrator. She has been Dean of the Chapel and Spiritual Formation, taught United Methodist history, United Methodist doctrine, and United Methodist polity for leadership, with an emphasis on the practices of historic Methodism and their translation into future effectiveness. She also regularly taught life of prayer, using resources from diverse traditions of practice beyond and within Christianity, including praying with art. We were delighted on Wednesday evening to host the grand opening of the Kathy Kelsey Art Gallery at Iliff School of Theology. To this honor, we are also delighted to announce today that by affirmation of the faculty of the Iliff School of Theology, she retires as Emerita Dean of the Chapel and Spiritual Formation. Dean Kelsey, we salute you for your years of dedicated service as a teacher, scholar, spirit guide, and administrator of the Iliff School of Theology. Thank you so very much. We now invite the Reverend Mark Feldmeyer, who will also share words of welcome.
Students, alumni, faculty and staff, friends and family, it is a joy to welcome you here to St. Andrew on this day of celebration. And it's an honor to host you once again as Iliff School of Theology gathers for its annual commencement. And we hope today that you experience the same generous spirit of hospitality that reflects St. Andrew's vision for inclusion and welcoming of all people. And we're deeply grateful also for the long-standing relationship that we share with Iliff and for the many faculty members who have taught within these very walls, for the interns that have served here over the years, for the countless ways our communities have learned from each other, and for Iliff's enduring commitment to the intersection of faith and compassion and justice and the common good. Thank you all for being here today to celebrate these graduates and all that this moment brings to them and to their families. May God's blessing be upon you and upon your families and upon all of you graduates today. And may that same God lead each of us back into the world to love and serve with grace and courage and wisdom. Congratulations, class of 2026. Thank you.
Iliff School of Theology, founded in 1892, acknowledges that the space in which we gather today is located in the ancestral home of the Arapaho, Cheyenne, and Ute. The people closely associated with the founding of Iliff caused a devastation that we cannot undo or fully rectify. And our intertwined history makes us responsible for and to all Indigenous peoples and our continued occupation of this land. We now acknowledge the enduring relationships that these nations have to their homeland. We acknowledge that our occupancy has historically ignored the relational significance of this land and all of its peoples, both human and non-human. Through this acknowledgement, we pledge in our learning community to listen to, learn from, to amplify the wisdom of, and find opportunities to partner with the Arapaho, Cheyenne, and Ute peoples. In addition to our land acknowledgement, we publicly affirm our commitment to the Lenape peoples, with whom we have entered into an ongoing process of accountability and building right relationships. The intertwined histories of Methodism and Euro-Christian conquest were exemplified by welcoming the gift of an 18th century book of Christian history that was bound in the flayed and tanned skin of a murdered Lenape man and publicly displayed at Iliff as a treasured artifact from 1893 until 1974. We seek to address this horrific legacy through attention and sustained effort to reshape Iliff's relationship with the Lenape and other Indigenous people in our teaching and communal life. We are profoundly grateful to the Lenape peoples for their willingness to engage with Iliff as we wrestle with this painful history and pledge to uphold this relationship in good faith. We pledge to be accountable to all Indigenous peoples and to build relationships grounded in justice, respect, and shared responsibility.
To my left are two covenantal objects: a crystal symbolizing water and truth-telling, and tobacco wrapped in red cloth. Within Indigenous cultures, tobacco is used in ceremonies for its physical and spiritual healing properties. As a part of our new relationship with the Lenape Indians, we made a commitment to our Lenape relatives that at each of our formal meetings and worship services, we would place before us the sacred medicine of tobacco and other objects that are a sign of our new covenant to atone for the atrocities of the past. Along with these objects, I am wearing a red and black beaded necklace, a gift from a Lenape elder, and a medicine wheel pendant necklace, a gift from an Arapaho elder, and a turtle pin in recognition that we dwell on Turtle Island. Let us continue in the spirit of celebration and rejoice with all of our graduands. Let us sing, shout, applaud, dance, and be full of life as we express gratitude for the accomplishments of the students who are becoming graduates. Let us stand together and sing.
Iliff's purpose statement. Iliff is a theological graduate school that nurtures passion, cultivates compassion, and encourages social and ecological justice around the world.
Iliff's vision statement. Iliff students and graduates are social justice activists, spiritual companions, religious leaders, and intercultural innovators in faith, secular, civic, and academic communities. And Iliff's commitment statement. The Iliff School of Theology educates persons to be leaders committed to interculturality, decolonialism, social justice, inclusiveness, and religious diversity.
Susan Schlesman Duncan Award for Outstanding Board Leadership. The Susan Schlesman Duncan Award for Outstanding Board Leadership is awarded to an Iliff trustee who epitomizes Susan's legacy of dedication, loyalty, leadership, generosity, commitment, and service. Susan Duncan was a well-known philanthropist, community leader, and honorary trustee at Iliff. Following her parents' footsteps, Susan served on the Iliff board for 28 years. As a donor, she gave generously to endowed scholarship funds and to capital and programmatic funds. She established an endowment for scholarship and fellowship funds, including the Gerald L. Schlesman Professorship in Methodist Studies. As president, along with Paula Redmond, chair of the Board of Trustees, I am pleased to present the Susan Schlesman Duncan Award for Outstanding Board Leadership posthumously to the Reverend Sheila A. Baker Johnson, who graduated with a Master of Divinity degree from Iliff in 2004. Steve Black, Sheila's son-in-law, will receive the award on behalf of the family. Sheila was returning to Denver after traveling in South Africa when her spirit took flight from her earthly body in September 2025. An alumna with a profound love for Iliff, Sheila served as a member of the Board of Trustees for many years. Her Iliff leadership gave special attention to all students as chair of the Trustees' Student Affairs Committee. With a pastoral heart, she gave herself fully to listening to the issues and concerns presented by our learning community. In the same way, she listened from the depths of her soul. She represented the voices of the students within trustee executive committee meetings and full board gatherings. She supported Iliff with her time, gifts, and talents. Rarely was there a time when the community would gather that we would not find Sheila there, greeting everyone with her gentle eyes, warm smile, and lovely voice. On behalf of the Iliff School of Theology, it is with immense gratitude, admiration, and fond memories that we present the Reverend Sheila Baker Johnson the Susan Schlesman Duncan Award for outstanding board leadership. Steve, would you say a word?
Thank you. On behalf of the family, thank you for this incredible honor. I'm humbled to accept this award in Reverend Mom Sheila's honor. She welcomed me into her heart and into her family. She affectionately referred to me as her son in love. And her faith, her love, and legacy continue to shape all of us. And we're profoundly grateful for the Iliff School of Theology for recognizing her life in this meaningful way. Thank you.
Camera guy. There he is.
The 2026 Theological Luminary Award for visionary stewardship and a heart for justice that illuminates the path for our students. This is a new award. It recognizes an outstanding philanthropist whose generosity is a direct expression of their theological vision and a commitment to creating a more just and compassionate world in alignment with the purposes of the Iliff School of Theology. It honors individuals whose giving reflects a deep understanding of faith-based principles, translating belief into tangible acts of compassion. The Iliff School of Theology is proud to present this award to Barbara Kelly, president of the Raleigh Kelly Family Foundation. Barbara's legacy at Iliff is defined by a rare and potent combination of strategic mind and servant's heart. Ranking in the top 20 of all donors of all time. Her theological philanthropy is visible in every corner of our community, with the physical transformation of Shattuck Hall and capital projects to the quiet. Vital support for the Student Emergency Fund and Urban Ministry scholarships. Beyond her financial treasure, Barbara has dedicated her professional talent to elevating Iliff's leadership. As a transformative force on the Trustee Affairs Committee, she instituted an annual board survey and a rigorous new nominating process, ensuring that Iliff's leadership remains robust as its mission. Whether funding feasibility studies, workshops, or endowed programs, Barbara keeps an eye on the ball with a signature warmth and friendliness that inspires everyone she encounters. We honor her today for her integration of faith and action, proving that a commitment to a just and compassionate world is best realized through steady, strategic, and joyful stewardship. She is not here with us today to receive this award, but we did present this award to her at a special session of the Board of Trustees. So wherever she is, we salute her.
Good morning. I am Kat Harrell. I am the Director of Annual Giving and Alumni Relations here at the Iliff School of Theology, which means, among a whole lot of other fun things, I get to come up here and remind us all of the Iliff grads who came before you. Today, we celebrate the class of 1976, who had their own commencement 50 years ago. You'll find a list of those graduates in your program. Class of 2026, welcome to the alumni community. Earlier this year, I had the chance to talk to some of the alumni who have come before you and ask them what they would share with all of you. So I'm going to borrow their words because they've been in your shoes. Reverend Paul Budwin, who is part of the class of 2018 and who is currently serving as a pastor and a city council member in Minneapolis, said, and please excuse my language, "Don't let the bullshit baptize you. Don't let the frustrations and challenges of the broken systems stop you from doing the good work of trying to change those systems in all the ways that you can." Stephanie Pierce, who graduated in 2007 and serves at a Methodist church here in Denver, said, "Get a dog." Or more generally, find the spaces, the people, and the relationships that are going to care for you back, that are going to mutually nourish you as you go about your good work. And from Mallory Everhart, who is currently serving in the Minnesota Conference of the United Church of Christ, she said, "Cultivate the vision. Imagine the better world, the world that you are working towards that is bigger and brighter and more beautiful than the one you are trying to deconstruct." Class of 2026, may you always have the courage to fight unjust systems. May you find nourishing, loving relationships. And may you always envision the better world. Congratulations. We can't wait to see what you're going to do next.
Good morning. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. The class of 2026 has come very far, and we recognize that we did it because you came with us. We are grateful for every word of encouragement, every cup of coffee, or reminder to take a break. We recognize all you gave for us, every time you showed up for us, every time you checked in on us, every time you covered a base and picked up the slack for us. Please accept these tokens of gratitude and recognition that we have come this far because you came with us. Thank you. We are about to share the tokens. And I want you to note that in the picture there are extras. Those are to remind us that we have sisters and brothers, siblings who came with us who are not in this space. And they also have gratitude and recognition. Will the class of 2026 please stand?
Iliff School of Theology takes great delight in embracing Dr. Tink Tinker, Osage Nation, Washaje, a world-renowned scholar and truth-sayer who calls us to confession and to do justice. Today, we are privileged to welcome our commencement speaker, Dr. Robert Allen Warrior, Osage Nation, another world-renowned scholar and truth-sayer who calls us to think about what we say and to consider the implications and impact of our world on how we live. His biography is printed in your program booklet. Dr. Warrior has studied with and been mentored by some of the most influential theological, socio-political thinkers of the 20th century, those like James Cone and Vine Deloria. Some singers and actors are known for their signature songs and character portrayals. Dr. Warrior is widely known for his essay, Canaanites, Cowboys, and Indians, Deliverance, Conquest, and Liberation Theology Today, which was published in 1989. I have known of no other scholar who has written an essay that has been identified as a classic within the American Academy of Religion and continues to be referenced and resourced as required readings within many classes. His work calls us to reflect on the myths and narratives upon which we ground our existence, to consider who is suffering or dying that they might live. He and I met the first time around 1990 while we were both doctoral students, he at Union Theological Seminary in New York City, and I at Drew University, Madison, New Jersey. Through the years, I've reached out to him from time to time regarding projects I was working on. I'm delighted to welcome this critically insightful justice advocate to Iliff as our 2026 commencement speaker. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Robert Allen Warrior, Hall Distinguished Professor of American Literature and Culture, University of Kansas.
Good morning. I'm honored and humbled and a little bit nervous to get to read to you today a short piece by one of my favorite writers, the brilliant American mystic and poet Walt Whitman. This is what you shall do. Love the earth, the sun, and the animals. Despise riches. Give alms to everyone that asks. Stand up for the stupid and crazy. Devote your income and labors to others. Hate tyrants. Argue not concerning God. Have patience and indulgence toward the people. Take off your hat to nothing, known or unknown, or to any man or number of men. Go freely with powerful, uneducated persons, and with the young, and with the mothers of families. Read these leaves in the open air, every season of every year of your life. Re-examine all you have been told at school, at church, or in any book. Dismiss whatever insults your own soul, and your very flesh shall be a great poem and have the richest fluency, not only in its words, but in the silent lines of its lips and face, between the lashes of your eyes, and in every motion and joint of your body. Thank you.
Zani wawi hoi pekombra. Ia doa a keep she kombra that zani wiek shia. These words of greeting in Wajaje Ia, Osage talk, are words my Osage ancestors spoke in these lands, which were familiar to them from following the great bison herd of these plains during their hunts twice each year. These words, especially the first phrase, Zani wa wihoi, encompass this morning's commencement with a shared space of respect and mutuality. Over the years, I've spoken this greeting across our continent and around the world as an acknowledgement of my respect for the peoples and places I visit, and in hope of friendship in places where our language has perhaps never been spoken before. And I offer it in places like this where I know it's been spoken for many years, decades, and centuries, with gratitude for the resilience, wisdom, and courage of my ancestors who believed in keeping our language and our peoplehood alive. My sincere thanks to President Butler and others who invited and have so graciously hosted me, to these gathered faculty members who confer these degrees today, families and friends who've gathered, and to all of you graduates whose accomplishments are at the center of it all. I'm grateful for your attention. In the beginning of his 1981 book of poetry, From Sand Creek, Acoma Pueblo poet Simon Ortiz writes, "This America has been a burden of steel and mad death. But look now, there are flowers and new grass and a spring wind rising from Sand Creek." These last lines are audaciously hopeful, I should point out, for a book of poetry that unrelentingly focuses on multiple centuries of brutality and violence. That audacity, as I hope to show in these next few minutes, is what drew me to Ortiz's work as I considered what to share with you today. The new grass Ortiz imagines in the poem grows not far from here, at Sand Creek, in Ortiz's imagination. The site of the 1864 massacre of over 150 Cheyenne and Arapaho people by militiamen of the Colorado Volunteers under the command of Colonel John Chivington and by order of John Evans, governor of the Colorado Territory. Many of you graduates are no doubt already familiar with these events given the connections of Chivington, an ordained Methodist minister, and Evans to this institution, to the University of Denver, and the predecessors of these institutions, and the reckoning these connections have prompted in recent years. Ortiz's perspective on this history is unique, perhaps, in that he experienced it through the VA hospital at Fort Lyons, Colorado, which in 1864 was the place from which the Colorado Volunteers departed for Sand Creek. Ortiz arrived at Fort Lyons in 1974 seeking treatment for disordered substance use with other veterans of the U.S. Armed Forces. In narrating his arrival at Fort Lyons, he once again focuses on grass, writing, "Grief memorizes this grass. Raw courage, believe it. red-eyed and urgent, stalking Denver, like stone, like steel, like courage. Believe it. While I know these moments of gut-wrenching history run against the grain of the good feelings of this happy morning, the increasingly troubled times in which you commence the next phase of your lives leads me to focus my time on the courage Ortiz speaks of as you begin testing what you've learned through your theological education in a world of turmoil and crisis. In From Sand Creek, Simon Ortiz grapples with what it means to address the desperation he faced in his own life in a place so blatantly tied to such a brutal episode of indigenous possession. How do you find healing at Fort Lyons if you're Simon Ortiz in 1974? He would spend the better part of 2 more decades seeking to overcome the damages he inflicted on himself and his family through his addiction, eventually gaining an advantage in that individual struggle. But he identifies in these lines, describing the world he looked upon in the early 1970s, a trait that would be indispensable to that eventual and sustained success. Specifically, Ortiz links his hope for new grass to both courage and grief. And I want to suggest that his linking of these two qualities is something worth taking with you as you move on from this place. For Ortiz, bravely embracing the future and confronting those things that stand in its way requires that we engage in grieving for that which has been lost along the way, including those things that we can never get back, that we can never reconcile. As Ortiz replied many years ago when I asked him about what it means for grief to memorize this grass, he wrote back saying, "Grief is very private as meditative act, perception, and atonement. To grieve is not to mourn or feel sad or loss. I consider grieving and grief as meditative act. It is also perception or understanding and comprehension." Does that sound like a form of rationalization? Perhaps. When I consider grief as a meditative act or action, I feel it is proactive, a way of comprehending what has taken place. Colonization was and has been such a powerful, powerful force that faced indigenous people. They, in a sense, have not been able to even conceive of what they have faced. So I think in order to conceive this force and its impact, I've relegated or considered grief as a technique, system, method of perception, understanding. To mourn, feel sad, and feel loss, those are just too damn heavy as effects of colonialism. So I prefer to cope with the effect and impact of colonization by considering grief as perception. Grief memorizes this grass as a natural and inexorable act. At the time I began to conceive of the poems in From Sand Creek, I was desperately trying to hold my life together. Knowing something of Iliff's history and commitments, I know that you've learned that to focus on the work of justice is not just to understand, but to act in the face of injustice. This, I want to suggest, is what makes schools like this one so important in this moment, where the evidence of injustice and corruption pile up around us. Since leaving Union Seminary after graduating in 1992, I've been a professor in departments of English, American Studies, and Indigenous Studies in colleges of liberal arts and sciences. Over the past 5 years, I've had some wonderful opportunities to gain a new appreciation for theological education, and in the many ways, training in classical and contemporary theology have framed and guided my work positively and generatively. I spent the fall semester of the past 2 academic years teaching at Harvard Divinity School and found it refreshing to have students who were self-consciously grappling with issues of faith and were there specifically because they did not want to detach what they believe from the process of learning about it. And they were interested in understanding their role and the place of religious ideas in the world. HDS is a wonderful place, part of a university that plays a critical role in national and world affairs. The students who are attracted to HDS are smart, creative, and motivated. Iliff School of Theology is also a wonderful place that attracts students who are attracted to it because they're smart, creative, and motivated. There at HDS, I was there because of a shared sensibility among students, but also among many HDS faculty and administrators, that they needed to get going on starting to address indigeneity in their curriculum and on their faculty. I was there with a wonderful Samoan theologian, Therese Latua, who's now leaving Harvard to return to Aotearoa, New Zealand, where she was raised, to teach in an Indigenous Studies department closer to home. I mention this in order to hold up your institution as one that decided 4 decades ago to address the same issue when it hired and retained Professor Tink Tinker, my friend and my brother, beginning the slow process, which still goes on, of creating space for indigeneity on your faculty and in your curriculum. In one of my classes at HDS, I dug out some old correspondence that I had with Vine Deloria Jr. when I was sitting where you were when I was a graduate student. And I taught it along with Professor Tinker's seminal work, Missionary Conquest, in one of my courses at HDS. In that correspondence from the late 1980s, I could see in Vine Deloria Jr.'s work and in his own thought a anxiety about who's going to follow him in doing the theological work, and him sticking with that theological work through the Ecumenical Association of Third World Theologians, primarily because of his close friendship with my advisor, James Cone, who introduced me, oddly enough, to Vine Deloria when I finally got my personal introduction to Vine. That Vine wanted to see that work continue. He held on to it because of his own history and because of his own friendships. But he hoped, and he was casting about for the others who would come along and follow in his wake. I remember rereading one of his letters to me that I could be one of those people, and was disappointed to find out that I wasn't going to stick around in theological institutions, but was heading off towards another kind of career. Wasn't my only time I disappointed Vine, by the way. And who we had in that time, who did in fact stand in that gap, and who has filled it so ably over those years, has been Tink Tinker. And I know that it's not always comfortable or easy to fit indigeneity into a theological school, because of how sharp sometimes the theological critique can be. And I know now that Professor Tinker is retired, that the institution relies on him as a emeritus faculty member. But I wanted to hold this up as a way of helping you see that you're part of an institution with a history that's been made better by this inclusion of indigeneity, which continues through the work of President Butler and others here. And I want to add my thanks to Professor Tinker for his dedication to this shared work here at Iliff and beyond. I couldn't help but last night when I had dinner with the two of them of thinking about James Cone and Vine Deloria meeting, and I got the story from James Cone, not from Vine, meeting here in Denver. It may have been at Iliff for all I know in the early 70s. And Professor Cone was doing one of his presentations on black theology, on African American experience. And from the back, during the questions and answers, there was a incredibly incisive and it sounded like withering critique of what Professor Cone had said. And say, what happens when you include indigeneity? What happens when you include American Indian people in your analysis? How does that fit? How do we fit into that analysis? And so Professor Cone answered as best as he could and thought, wow, I've really been taken to town by this person. And so after the presentation was over, Apparently, Vine came up with a smile on his face, shook Professor Cohn's hand, and said, "I'm Vine Deloria Jr. It's really a pleasure to meet you. You want to go get something to eat?" And Vine took James Cohn back to his house. He dug some frozen catfish out of his freezer and cooked up some catfish for the two of them. And their friendship started there in that moment of that sharp theological critique. And I could see in the friendship between President Butler and Professor Tinker that same sort of friendship and sustained engagement with each other that only deepens over time. And I'm so happy for you that you're able to benefit from that. As I pulled together my classes this past fall, I challenged myself to find ways to offer students opportunities to be brave. But that turned out to be harder than I thought it would be. I could encourage them to be bold and take intellectual risks, but I realized that those are not always the same as bravery. Looking back at the courses I took at Yale and Union, I realized they did not teach me how to be courageous. But I was exposed to plenty of examples of courage, including the ones that come to mind immediately, Leonardo Boff and other liberation theologians, whom Joseph Ratzinger, the cardinal who would go on to become Pope Benedict, silenced for their outspoken advocacy on behalf of the poor. Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Fannie Lou Hamer, and many others. The example I learned most from, however, was a room in Hastings Hall at Union that I would sometimes visit from my apartment 2 floors below, and which I always try to visit when I return to Union, the Bonhoeffer Room, dedicated to commemorating Union's connection to the German theologian and pastor Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who bravely returned to Nazi Germany in 1939 after having successfully escaped Berlin for a position at Union. And when he returned, he was subsequently, as most of you I'm sure know, was executed. The Bonhoeffer Room is the place where the German theologian stayed during his 3 months in New York in 1939 and contemplated whether and when he should return home. It's a space that exceeds its own walls, floor, ceiling, and door. Rather than making it a shrine by replicating its furnishings as Bonhoeffer would have known them or exhibiting photos and objects relating to the decision the young German reached there, Union has furnished it minimally with a table and a scattering of chairs, making it available to members of the Union community, asking only that it not be used for meals or musical or other noisy events. In this way it was, and I hope it still is, a place available for use, and it was always open. Like others at Union, I would sometimes stop in if I noticed no one else was there and stand at the window looking out over Broadway, as Bonhoeffer did, looking at that street that was sometimes hectic, but never fully empty, leading out to the world below. Courage loves company, but unfortunately so do complicity and compromise. Like Bonhoeffer, we live in a time in which many of those who could most easily afford to take a stand against the principalities and power that demand our fealty, those least vulnerable and most able to protect themselves, and who have the most leverage in countering or even stopping the injustices multiplying around us, have embraced capitulation. It's worth thinking then about Dietrich Bonhoeffer deciding to return in his eventual arrest, imprisonment, and execution for his opposition to the Third Reich. But I also want to say just briefly that sometimes I think we turn Bonhoeffer into a superhero through thinking of him as somebody who was trying to go back to be a part of the plot to assassinate Hitler, which seems certainly to be true. But he was also drawn home because he wanted to be somebody like many of you on the faculty here, to take care of the people who were part of his world, his Christian world of the confessing church in Germany. He knew that people there needed him. He knew that people in those churches, including the pastors, needed someone else to help shore up what was going on. But it wasn't just that superhero sort of activity that he went back to be a part of, but it was as well just the day-to-day bravery that it takes to be with people, to be willing to stand with people. And I'd wanted to hold that up as something really important as well. At the end of From Sand Creek, after lots of devastating analysis of the impact of colonialism on the land, his community, his family, and his own life. The same narrator who looked out from Fort Lyons and said, "Grief memorizes this grass," comes to find what he calls a dream needing a name. Ortiz roots that dream here on this plateau, leading up to the Rockies behind us. He roots it in our shared history. He claims that history as ours, as Americans, very carefully saying, "I love America." He doesn't say he loves the United States. He loves America. He loves that boundarylessness of the America that he feels included in. He goes on to write, "That dream shall have a name after all, and it will not be vengeful, but wealthy with love and compassion and knowledge, and it will rise in this heart, which is our America." I hope that you've found Iliff and this plateau in view of these mountains to be a place where you can look and find the love, compassion, knowledge, and the courage born of grief that you will need to face the days and years ahead. And my hearty congratulations to you for coming to this place. And thank you very much for having me today.
I invite you to join me as you are willing in an attitude of prayer and contemplation. We give thanks for the endings of things, for the culminations of degree programs, for the completions of the last few assignments, the last couple of requirements, for the conclusions of long journeys and brief circumstances. We give thanks for the endings of patterns of living. We give thanks for the movement from being a student to being a graduate. We give thanks for the ending of times of preparation, or perhaps for shifts to different ways of preparing, shifts to new perspectives and new possibilities, and shifts in directions we cannot yet perceive. In our endings, we find reminders of our intentions. In our endings, we find reminders of movement and change. In endings, we remember all the road behind us, and we give thanks for how we have made our ways here, for the ways we have traveled to this moment and to this place. We give thanks for all that has come and gone and all that has found a resting point here. We give thanks for the middles of things. We give thanks for vocations followed and callings still unfurling. We give thanks for journeys begun and underway. We give thanks for the work of justice imagined but not fully accomplished, for truths sensed and intuited but still to be articulated. We give thanks for the middleness of life, for the middle moments of careers, for the middle places of relationships that ask us to reflect on ourselves and on each other. In the middle of things, we recognize how much the past informs us and how clearly the future calls to us. In the middle, we set ourselves in relief against possibility. We offer praise for everything we understand part ways and all that we cannot yet believe. We live in gratitude for every learning there is yet to receive, for all that is unknown and unseen. We hold gratitude for our uncompleted thoughts and for arcs that stretch and bend to where we do not know. We give thanks for interiors, for centers, for the hearts of things and of people, and for all the teaching the middle has to offer. We give thanks for the beginnings of things. We give thanks for what's next and what now. We give thanks for horizons and for creative edges. We offer gratitude for everything yet to come, for pain and for pleasure and for wisdom and for foolishness and for purpose we only begin to notice. We live in anticipation of everything unrealized. We rest in admiration of the unknown. We speak with awe in the presence of each new dawn. We welcome new moons and new moments and new beginnings like old friends we've yet to greet for the first time. We offer gratitude for all the beginnings held in this tender time, for all the new starts and fresh days and unknown roads we have yet to travel. We give thanks for the beginnings of things where we find renewal. In endings, in middles, and in beginnings, we learn to locate ourselves. In beginnings, middles, and endings, we learn to seek each other's presence. At the edges and at the center, we travel onward, learning to recognize where we are along our journeys, learning to greet each fellow traveler with goodwill and with peace. May appreciation go with us as we go. May thanksgiving rush about and whisper to us about our callings. May we go from here to beginnings and middles and endings yet unimagined. And may gratitude go with us on the way. Amen.
We're getting to the exciting part. Established in 1892 with the laying of a cornerstone on June 8th, the Iliff School of Theology is a freestanding United Methodist related theological school, legally authorized to grant master's and doctorate degrees under the authority of the Board of Trustees. As a board, we celebrate scholarly achievement, service to the church and society, and the successful completion of Iliff's academic programs. Upon the recommendation of the faculty, the Board of Trustees has voted to award the degrees of Master of Arts, Master of Theological Studies, Master of Divinity, Doctor of Ministry, and Doctor of Philosophy, respectively, upon the persons listed in your program.
On recommendation of the faculty and by vote of the Board of Trustees of the Iliff School of Theology, I hereby confer the degrees as listed in the program with all the rights, powers, and privileges pertaining thereto, in token whereof you will be given the appropriate hood and diploma.
Are we ready? Okay. I have the privilege of presenting the candidates for the degree Master of Arts. Lindsay Ambler, concentration in social justice and ethics. Caitlin Rebecca Campbell, concentration in religion, trauma, and healing. Christina Marie Clark, concentration in religion, trauma, and healing. Emma Fellenstein, concentration in social justice and ethics. Bo Radich, in absentia, concentration in religion, trauma, and healing. Tiziana Severs, concentration in religion, trauma, and healing. I have the privilege of presenting the candidates for the degree Master of Theological Studies. Lise Fagiani Baronville, in absentia. Robert R. Chamberlain. Lily Groman. William Seth Ratliff, in absentia. Jesse Peter Van Horn, in absentia. I have the privilege of presenting the candidates for the degree Master of Divinity. Bry Brennan, concentration in social justice and ethics. Emily Bruno, concentration in professional ministries in context.
Ryan McCrae Ellie, in absentia, concentration in professional ministries in context. Celinda Lee Evans, concentration in social justice and ethics. Matt Ferris, in absentia, concentration in professional ministries in context. Mai Gross, in absentia, in the joint program with the Masters of Social Work. Megan Haffel-Schantz, concentration in professional ministries in context. Sorry, I have to make sure the right person's up standing there. Isabel Marquez, concentration in social justice and ethics. Diane Morris, concentration in professional ministries in context. Seth Allen Moon, concentration in professional ministries in context. Luis Ivan Nazario, concentration in professional ministries in context. Raina Janelle Olson, concentration in professional ministries in context. J.R. Perez, in absentia, concentration in social justice and ethics. Salix Desria Renan, concentration in religion, trauma, and healing. Ben Sides, concentration in professional ministries in context. Haley Sommerfeld, concentration in professional ministries in context. Matthew Utley, in absentia, concentration in professional ministries in context. Catherine Vance, concentration in professional ministries in context. Carolyn Faith Ware, concentration in professional ministries in context. Laura Gabrielle Minster Yates, concentration in religion, trauma, and healing. I have the privilege of presenting the candidates for the degree Doctor of Ministry, and you're going to need to be patient. They worked hard on these projects and dissertations, and I'm going to read the title. So wait for it. Vinetta Golphin Wilkerson, examining resource allocation patterns, a response to church decline. Guthrie Lee Graves Fitzsimmons, piloting a program for Christian legislators opposed to Christian nationalism. Dorcia Erlene Johnson, in absentia. The people have left the building, a story of rural church decline and abundance. Jason Michael Miller, the theology of Eucharist in the digital media within the Episcopal Church. I have the privilege of presenting the candidates for the degree Doctor of Philosophy. Jason Allen Andrews, Islamic Political Anti-Theology, a discursive practice of contingency beyond sovereign politics. Clarence Wiley Davis, in absentia, Faith and the City, Poverty, Public Policy, and Political Black Theology. Sho McClarence, The Mystical and the Mundane, Queer Mystic Spatial Illuminations through the exploration of Felix Gonzalez Torres's contemporary art. Taylor Diane Muma, Otherness and the Trinity toward a critical reimagining of Christian divinity from a post-colonial ethos. Gregorio Pina Camprubi, in absentia, Queer Spanish Catholicism, Miguel de Unamuno, Teresa of Avila, and the contemporary lived experiences of LGBTQ Spanish Catholics in Madrid, Spain. Elise Ilya Pierce, Ha'adam Afar Min Ha'adama, Human Religious Systems as Evolutionary Ecological Responses as expressed in American Reform Judaism. Please join me in one more round of applause for all of our graduates.
Congratulations, graduates. Thank you for the privilege and honor of inviting me to deliver today's charge to the class of 2026. Some of you managed to take every class that I teach while you were at Iliff. I'm sorry for that. Whether your journey towards personal change at Iliff began 2 or 3 or 4 years ago, or in the case of our Doctor of Ministry and PhD graduates, even longer ago than that, our nation and the world
have changed in even more significant ways since you began, while in other ways, much across this nation and across the world remains the same. No group of Iliff graduates in recent memory has received their degrees at a more pivotal moment in history. So much grief and unexpected change, so much fear and anxiety about the future, so much spiritual obliteration and confusion, and so much loss and lament have piled up in our hearts and minds from just these past few years. A few of you were here during the COVID pandemic, and others of you have shared with me that your journey of disruption and calling to a school like Iliff occurred during the pandemic. I will not re-traumatize us by repeating or listing these recent challenges and losses of the world as we gather here today, since we can see them and hear them in the news whenever we wish. However, we do not live in ordinary times. We live in extraordinary times. As I've said to you in class, sometimes humorously, sometimes seriously, and I think almost all of you pushed back at some point, history does not repeat itself, because no two historical moments are completely identical. Every generation and every society that ever existed has believed itself at some time in their story to be either the very best that has ever been, or believe themselves to be a generation or a society in dramatic decline or on the threshold of collapse. But as we've also discussed in class, despite our individual and collective amnesia, the challenges human consciousness confronts across different times and places do repeat themselves. So if history does not actually repeat itself, yet historical wisdom also shows us there is often an uncanny repetition of patterns in events, then what exactly is repeating itself? For a number of years now, I've quoted in my classes and in my writing from an intriguing book I read during the pandemic by the award-winning writer Rebecca Solnit, A Paradise Built in Hell, The Extraordinary Communities That Arise in Disaster. She asks her readers to consider, who are we when everything goes wrong? How is it possible that sometimes the wonderful comes wrapped in the terrible? In this quote, Solnit reflects on one of the patterns that scholars from different fields of study and historians like myself have found when examining the pages of history. The conundrum that in the midst of hell on earth, and that sometimes as a consequence of the suspension of the usual order and the failure of most systems, as we are living through today, we are freed to live and act in another way. In extraordinary times, crisis enables change, big changes, changes that would have seemed impossible in ordinary times. This is not to romanticize the old theological ideas about redemptive suffering, because marginalized communities and disempowered persons of many different identities and traditions have often had this view projected and thrust onto their unnecessary suffering by their oppressors and overlords. But it is a way of reminding ourselves in our moment in time that some of the side effects of the present era, although accompanying devastation and loss, will create openings or occasions for a new vision, convergent moments for justice and empowerment, for innovation and integration, for advocating freedom, and for the restoration of balance and wholeness. And that's where you, dear graduates, come into this story of remembrance, balance, and restoration. The world needs you. It needs you as the heralds of a new vision, one that is not mired in the old order, nor in the world's pernicious systems of exclusion, exploitation, and domination. Though we see some old visions failing around us, the world needs those who retain the faith that humanity can do better, to show us how to live on and find a doorway in the ruins. May lifelong learning and a sense of curiosity and wonder, solidly grounded in courageous theological imagination, be forever a part of your future. As sung in the Iliff hymn, we do not fear, for we believe God dreams of worlds we can't conceive. While not all of our graduates identify as Christian, I must remind us, and you didn't think I was going to be given a microphone in the month of May or early June and not say what I'm about to say. I must remind us that we gather here today on the cusp of Pentecost Sunday, as next weekend, or more precisely, 9 days from today, Christianity commemorates its birthday. In my academic work and teaching, I have shown that some of the greatest turning points in the history of Christianity, times when corruption and domination has been repudiated, have been set in motion within this fortnight surrounding Pentecost Sunday, and especially within the first 3 or 4 days after Pentecost Sunday. So, you have a lot to look forward to, 9 days out and beyond. Restless, breathless, and fearing for their lives, the first Christian community found its collective breath and its collective voice on that first Pentecost. Whether or not you believe in some divine spirit outside of ourselves, that process of a community facing challenges and finding their one unifying breath and turning that into one collective voice for change is a powerful force in history. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. So may the sacred fire, the mighty winds, and the living waters of this approaching day of remembrance add to your inspiration on this occasion. Go forth and never forget, nor fail to discern and listen to that unknowing knowing, most sacred, indivisible, unquenchable voice that resides in you. Then use it to reach out to others in community and help them all find voice together. For you have been called forth to advocate freedom through works of compassion and leadership, of teaching and learning, of preaching and writing and chaplaincy, for both traditional and new forms of ministry, for social change in the secular and political arena, and for social justice activism. May legions of light under the protective shadow of divine wings protect you always, comforting you when needed and grounding you in that magical space between your mind and your heart. And always remember that there is no substitute for a tough intellect and a resilient mind wedded to a tender and compassionate heart. Go forth speaking words of healing and transformation to the world and carrying out works of mercy and justice on behalf of the common good. Diplomatically, you may have to bite your tongue sometimes, but beware of being silent for too long, because the blood's not all you'll drink. A time comes when silence is betrayal. A time comes when silence is betrayal. These struggles and paradoxes of how best to create change and lead the world into a better future, they are yours now. Courage, people, don't get weary, though the way be long. Courage, graduates, don't get weary, though the way be long. Thank you for all that you've given and taught us at Iliff, for it is true that my colleagues and I have also learned from you, dear graduates. I hope you have all heard a little bit of your own aspirations and hopes and dreams that you shared with us in class over the years in these words. An exhausted, restless, and wounded world needs your courageous imagination, your service, your prophetic leadership, your dauntless voice, and your audacious presence advocating freedom. Blessings and much love upon each of you, your partners, your families and friends, and your life's work. And since we call this the charge to the graduates, vaya con Dios, muy buena suerte, y adelante, Godspeed, lots of luck, and forward, go get 'em. Thank you.
Over the years, I have often shared with the students that the word education comes from educare or educere, to lead out, not to fill you up, but to draw out what is already within you: truth, wisdom, courage. Today, I see that in you. Go now, not as those who are finished, but as those who are beginning again. Live a life of leading out, not as those who have all the answers, but as those who accompany others in finding their own voices, their own truths, their own way toward justice. In Korean, the word for teacher is 선생님, literally one who was born before. But it also carries a deeper calling, one who lives with wisdom and helps others live in too. May you become 선생님 in the Word, not only in places of teaching, but in communities, in movements, and wherever human dignity is at stake. What has taken root in you here is more than knowledge. Carry with you the practices of deep listening, courageous questioning, and solidarity with others. And when the path ahead feels uncertain, remember, you were never meant to walk alone. Lean into community. Trust the wisdom of those before you. Make space for those who will come after you. For you do not go alone. You go accompanied by memory, by community, by spirit. The breath of life goes with you. The wisdom of ancestors goes with you. The spirit that leads us out goes with you. Go and let your life become a path others can walk toward freedom. Go in peace, rooted in love, sustained by grace, and guided by the Spirit toward the work of repair. Amen. Eshe, may it be so.